page and go to the sanitation division, it's actually right on that page there, and pretty much any page that deals with recycling. They did an excellent job in setting that up, and I believe it might also be available as an app. I know that the DPW also has an app for like pickup days to tell you what day on your street. But yeah, it's a great resource, and sometimes when I get questions, I find myself going on there because it gets very specific as to which type of plastic container that you're looking to potentially throw away or put in the recycling, and it'll tell you where it needs to go. And actually going off of Bob's point, I thank you for bringing that up about if you do have plastic bags, which right now a lot of us are in that situation. There was a public health order from Governor Baker that currently across the Commonwealth makes it so that you can't bring in your reusable bags to the market. And it's definitely unfortunate. I can understand. I think we definitely understand the reasons behind it. But if you do need to dispose of your plastic bags, at most supermarkets there should be containers. There's also a website. I'll see if I can pull that up and maybe we can share that. But there's a website that details where you can find those drop-off centers for plastic bags. I know the film highlighted that a lot of that plastic isn't perfectly recycled, and that's definitely part of the problem. But at least this way, it's not contaminating the waste stream as it would if it goes into recycling or trash directly.
Sean, that's helpful to know. Thanks so much for sharing that. And that you say that, I do recall in grocery stores that there was a spot you could deposit that. Now that you've mentioned it, so I'll have to look for that as well. Can you, as I think about coming into the warmer months now, the iced coffee cups, right? So what's a public service announcement here on using those? If people aren't bringing their own cup with them, if they get the plastic cup with the plastic lid and the straw, is that recyclable? Can you put that in the recycle bin? Is that a trash item? Is that a throwaway? I mean, where do we go with that? That's
one of the great questions. There's a lot of different types of plastic, a lot of different resins that are used. And even in the movie, they do a great job of showing, look at this one package. It has, 5 different layers of plastic, some of which is recyclable, some of which it is not. So I'd love to give you an off-the-cuff answer that is good for everything. It'd be nice to say, if in doubt, throw it in the recycling. But unfortunately, that could end up just being contamination if some of that material can't be recycled. So once again, I would say, bookmark the Waste Wizard page. And in fact, maybe while someone else is speaking, I can look that up quickly and see if they have any guidance for us on that.
That might be one way we could all leave the call today, with making something actionable for the entire viewing audience too, right? We could all make an effort.
Absolutely. The Starbucks and Dunkin' Donut cups.
Can I just add that a lot of coffee shops, I know Starbucks definitely does this, but if you bring your own iced coffee cup because they want to reduce plastic, they'll offer you up to $1 discount, which can really add up if you get a coffee every day.
Do you know if they're still doing that right now, though, with everything going on?
I don't. I'm not sure about that. But when this is over, and hopefully soon, it's just an idea.
Well, it's a great idea.
I also just wanted to add quickly, I did look it up. Coffee cups, plastic coffee cups can be put in your recycling cart. So I imagine that there's a certain type of plastic that they would use, especially for the heat. And that's probably pretty common across plastic coffee cups. So that's a yes.
I just want to add, you can access the Waste Wizard through an app. There's Framworks. It's FRAMWORK. It's on the iOS App Store. I'm not sure about Android, but it is on an app platform if that's easier for you to access. And that also includes trash pickup.
Yeah, that's great, because I was going to ask Sean, you kind of already said the Waste Wizard, but what are ways that, the community can get educated on what can and can't be recycled? Are there other ways that Framingham has sort of reached out to do that? Or besides the Waste Wizard, is there somewhere else that they can look as well?
Sure. I think on the recycling bin, there's definitely, directly on it, there's information about what can and can't go on there. The other great piece of information that I found that's definitely relevant to today's discussion, also on the sanitation department website, they recently produced a pretty comprehensive graphic of different types of plastic. Sometimes if you look at it, you'll see a symbol on the edge that has a number associated with it. That tells you which type of plastic it is. There's a graphic that outlines all those different numbers and explains what type of plastic it is and what you can do with it, whether it can be recycled or whether that needs to go in the traditional waste stream. So that's another tool there. But it is.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I don't think people ever, at least what Rebecca and I have come across in conversations, people don't ever know what that number really means.
Well, we were even talking about it with, science teachers, and like they didn't know what could go in and what could not go in. And I was walking my dogs the other day, and I saw a recycling bin full of pizza boxes, which can't go in there, and plastic bags, so that whole entire batch of recycling might be completely worthless at that point. So I think educating, community members about what can and can't go in the recycling stream is so vital to, success and proper recycling methods. Which brings me actually to our next question. Jeff, how do you think the citizens of Framingham can help the city move in the right direction with this, reduction in plastic usage?
Yeah, well, I think that I get deliveries from Instacart as I hunker down at home, and they deliver me things from Market Basket and Stop and Shop and BJ's. And I was fine up until the other day when Stop and Shop's delivery had plastic bags in it. So I complained to Instacart that when I'm shopping at Stop and Shop, it's paper or plastic. I pick paper every time, and they don't have to give us plastic bags. They have paper bags. So I kind of said that they should make it a preference. So I think individual complaint to companies is very effective. They do listen to it. That's one thing. And to pick up on one thing about food soil pizza boxes, you can compost those. And so we have Black Earth composting running in Framingham. There are some other ones, I think. But if everyone would put their eggshells and bones from chops and napkins, as it turns, you can't put napkins that you've used to eat with in the recycle bin because it's slightly soiled, but you can compost it. So there's a whole lot of stuff, not plastic, but along the same line where if we composted, we could actually save a lot too in terms of pollution. So that's something I think the city should embrace. And in some other cities and towns, the mayor or town manager has embraced it and joined up with Black Earth composting, for example, and then everyone gets a discount because at the moment there's only 100 users. Once they get to 400, they'll discount it and so on. So I think city government has to embrace it. So this is a kind of mayor, council, school committee issue as well. But individuals, I think individual action matters a lot. I mean, people I hope aren't using Roundup on their gardens or any pesticides of any kind. So it's all part of the whole same mindset, it seems to me.
Yeah. On the composting, composting is really important because it separates the food waste from the regular waste, which can produce methane, and that's terrible for greenhouse gases. But
your environmental science teacher really liked that comment.
Really smart. But I remember being in a conversation with some environmental activists in Framingham, and they were talking about roadside compost pickup. Is the black compost earth? I don't remember exactly what you said it was.
Black Earth compost, yeah.
Black Earth compost. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Is that a roadside pickup?
Yeah, I pick it up. I put it out every week. You pay a monthly fee. I think it's $17 a month. So there's a cost, but it would probably be 25% off that or something if the city embraced it across the city. So you have to pay, but it's every Thursday night I put it out. They pick it up. So it's something that one could fit. And I figure I'm reducing my trash stream, which the city should be happy about. Maybe not by a huge amount, but it's pretty heavy every week as every time a vegetable rots or something, it goes in there and so on. So. And
Jeff, I just wanted to add, yourself and Paige, that's great points about composting. I know our recycling distribution center, you can pick up compost bins there. I think they offer them for $25. And I checked in recently with our recycling coordinator just to make sure, and we do still have them available there. So that's not the same as, having it picked up and then, delivered elsewhere. But if you were interested in having your own, home compost bin, we do have some resources for that as well.
Great.
Oh, that's great to know. And, Bob, as we try to get everybody in the community involved, schools play a major part in the community. So what's sort of the role that you think the schools could play in this?
Yeah, I think that as students bring, they need water throughout the day, you got to get yourself a good Nalgene bottle, something that you can take with you, and avoid those, plastic water bottles, the Poland Springs, Belmont Springs, just, continue to use those. But sort of institutionally, we're taking a good hard look at what we can do. I recall meeting with the Environmental Club earlier this year before we were in this remote fashion and having some conversations around, we started talking about paper consumption, and that's something that we're taking some actual active action on, by the way. We're proposing reductions in our budget next year to commit ourselves to that. But apart from that, looking at our food services program. So Brendan Ryan is our current food services director. Prior to his arrival in 2006, everything was styrofoam and plastic, even the condiment packages and things. We've moved away. So as it is right now, five of our schools don't use any styrofoam or plastic at all. We have dishwash stations and using these kinds of trays, and it's reduced the overall consumption of plastic and styrofoam, which we know is just a bad decision for the environment. So if we were to look at moving toward, I think it was mentioned earlier, more toward like a biodegradable some sort of trays, in some way, it changes the cost factor. I mean, it's something to be mindful of, right? The average cost is, say, like 3 cents per styrofoam tray. It's about 38 cents per for consumable kind of like paper stock trays. And so looking at that on an average cost of a year, what would that impact be? It would probably be about $250,000 to the budget. You'd have to just adjust for the 500,000 or so meals that you serve on trays. So there's some strategies. What Brendan is trying to do is to do more, like for students who have breakfast with us, more hand fruit and things that are not requiring packaging is an approach to that. And also looking at our hydroponic. We have a hydroponic garden at the high school. One of those sort of reformed cargo trailers that takes a lot of the not only does it take the waxed paper is no longer an issue for like how you move lettuce or how you or any kinds of the pesticides or herbicides and things that are impactful. Now in a hydroponic farm, we're able to grow and use all of our own lettuce for salads across the district. So that's a huge step we've made recently. Where I think we should go down the road, instead of spending the $225,000 for maybe for biodegradable trays, is to say, what would it actually cost to outfit all of our schools, the remaining schools that don't have it, with dishwash stations? So you'd actually have cutlery and you'd have trays if you need them at all, and kind of think about that fashion. I mean, I know there's an added expense, but so isn't there an added expense to the planet here? And so I need to think about the bigger picture. And so that's something that I think would be worth a look. And right now it's difficult to have a financial conversation because there's so much unknown about the finances in the current pandemic. But we'll eventually, as has been mentioned, I think Emma mentioned that we will come out of this and we'll hopefully end. And when it does, we need to be ready to think about ways to make the world a better place for us is the environment. And I think that's a step we should take a look at. I think we should really take a good hard look at what would it be to outfit our schools with these kinds of dishwash stations or dishwashers, and adding that, as we've been doing since 2006, to minimize our environmental footprint.
Thank you so much, Bob. I think one of the other things that we mentioned too was composting, which is interesting because we did talk about the black earth composting as a possibility, which would make sense if we were getting rid of our styrofoam trays, because then we would just be able to compost and either wash the trays, as you mentioned, if we did get the dishwashers, or if we did go with the compostable trays, we could do that too. So that was another conversation we did have with the Environmental Club. So I think maybe, I don't know, we might have time for just like one more question because we want to make sure, or two more questions, but we want to make sure that we can share the call to action with everybody because that is a very important piece of, okay, so what can we do now? But right now, I think we can have at least time for one more question, maybe two. And this one is to Sean. As we look ahead to making changes, how do you think we might reimagine a future without single-use plastics? Like, what kind of policies and systems are we trying to implement in Framingham to help us get there? I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about a really important bylaw that might be in the works, so we're hoping you could update us on that. You're muted.
Thank you. I caught myself that time. I started talking and then immediately looked down. So thank you, Rebecca, for that introduction. Definitely. So we do have our plastic bag reduction bylaw in effect. I think as we got some experience and some time had passed, we realized that there were some vulnerabilities with how it was set up. And so the mayor, working with City Council, we had set up a environmental task force to look at the plastic bag reduction bylaw and see how we could amend it and make it a little bit stronger. And so just to summarize very quickly, I think one of the big things that we're doing this time around is that we're going to add a fee so that in addition to no longer allowing any plastic bags at checkout that are not reusable, stores will be required to charge a minimum of 10 cents for every paper bag they hand out. And the reason that we wanted to do this was to make sure that we are encouraging the use of reusable bags, not just switching from plastic to another resource that people might not be using as carefully as they should. And so really those are kind of the two major changes is, making sure we cut out all plastic bags and instituting a fee. And I think that will have a big impact moving forward. We've seen some retailers switch to heavier gauge plastic bags based on how the definitions were written in the bylaw. And I think this will help address that. So that's it.
It's very interesting. Rebecca, you are muted.
Just going to ask, like, when that might be happening, or I know with everything going on right now, that might be an unknown.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, obviously, we're not. It's not really in effect due to the public health order from the state. But we're expecting. Currently, it's set to start the beginning of next year. That may or may not change, but we definitely want to start, spreading the word and educating people that these changes will be coming. So, stay tuned for that.
Sounds good. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, we are going to be wrapping up soon. Girls, before we hand it over to you to kind of talk about the call to action, is there anything else that you would tell people your age at this point in time?
I want to talk a little bit about some traps that you can fall into when you're trying to make more sustainable choices. I know when I first started looking into sustainability, I was really caught up in this, like, I really want to do the most. I want to be the best I can be. And the problem is that there's a lot of companies out there that put out false advertisements about how they're making changes that they really aren't. And so that's called greenwashing, is when companies will pretend to be more sustainable than they are. And so really do your research into what you're buying into. Every time you make a purchase, remember that. And the best thing you can do is not to, there's also all these zero waste swaps you can do. You can buy all these things online that are replacements. Don't buy those replacements until you run out of them. You don't need to buy a bamboo hairbrush if you already have a hairbrush that works. Use what you already have. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't look like the perfect zero waste lifestyle that you can see the bloggers using. It's about the change. So that's one thing. If you're trying to make conscious choices, really remind yourself of your values and remind yourself of what you already have. And that's the best way to make a sustainable change.
And just to add on to that, like what Paige was saying, just buy less. If I had to give everyone one like phrase of advice, it would be buy less. Buying a reusable water bottle that will last you a decade instead of buying a plastic one every day. Like just buy less clothes, because there's a good chance that the things you buy either have plastic in them or they're packaged in plastic.
Yeah.
And your money is a vote.
Yes, definitely. And don't be afraid to buy secondhand. I buy all of my clothes secondhand. I buy anything I can buy secondhand, because it is a way of making sure that production doesn't cause any more greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere, and it means one less thing goes to landfill. And only 20% of clothes at thrift shops get actually bought. So bring that up and buy clothes that are looking for homes.
I think that, consumerism, like what you were speaking about, Paige, is so important, because in the film, one of the really interesting things that they said to me was that plastics are driven by supply, not demand. And so we know that these, fossil fuel companies are pushing plastic on us, and they're building all of these, factories, to alarming numbers of factories, to make more plastic. And so I think what you mentioned is so important to the message of the film. So thank you for that. I think that maybe we should take a look at the call to action now. If you could bring that up, Mateo, on screen. Thank you. Emily, you wanted to, I guess the kids are gonna talk about it. So can you guys see it okay? Okay, all right. So Emma, do you want to start off and do a few of them, and then Paige, we can have you finish up on the next screen?
Yep, sure. Thanks. So the first step, would just be watch the film and get educated. I'm really thankful and grateful that we're offering it for free this week. So make sure to sign up on the Evite, and then more importantly, share what you learned. Like Dr. Tremblay was saying, he then had his whole family watch it. Do something like that, because the more people you tell, the more change that's made. And the website for the film, again, that breakfreefromplastic.org, they have a lot of great resources on petitions and how you can stop huge companies from consuming or using a lot of plastic.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, call for corporate responsibility and push elected officials to take action. Emma mentioned the website, storyofplastic.org/take action. You can find an active campaign near Framingham. You can also reach out to your representatives and make it clear that this is something you care about, because they'll just note down that people care about it, and eventually they'll realize that it matters. Join the Break Free from Plastic movement. You can begin to reduce the purchase of items packaged in single-use plastic, reanalyze how you use plastic in your day-to-day life, and simple changes can make a big difference in there. And always posting on social media, getting more media attention is always important, especially on a local level. Getting everyone involved is super important. So use social media, share photos, post, get the word out.
Yeah, thank you. I think, these are all pretty simple steps, and given the circumstances, some of these are obviously not doable at the moment, but the more we start to do something now, the effects will certainly take a turn later. Before we end, is there anything that anybody would like to comment on? Any last words? Or?
Yeah, we have a few minutes left if anybody wants to say anything that they didn't get to say.
All right, I think, sorry. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll go real fast. There's a lot of groups in Framingham that you can join to be with folks that are trying to help you. So like Clean Up Framingham is one, Transition Framingham. There's another group, I think it's the 350 Mass Metro West organization. And one cool thing that happened last year, I think earlier this year and last year, was they had a repair cafe. So instead of buying something new, which companies love to make you do, you could go to this meet together with folks, and they would have people to help you to fix appliances and other things that may include plastic products. And then that way you would not have to buy another thing that would probably end up in the landfill or in our environment at some point in time. So I would look to join one of those organizations or follow them on social media.
Right, and I was going to look at it from the political aspect, as the school committee can make policy so the students can bring information to push that along. The other thing is there's the council. It writes ordinances, obviously, about plastic bags and so on, but just generally, there's the youth council, which has the ear of the council as well. But also there's an election next year for all of the school committee members, all the council members, except for 2 who are 4-year termers, and the mayor. Make it an issue in the election. So environmental should be a big piece of that election campaign, and we have the solar and all that. But the plastic part is just as important, and this general pollution is really important. So I think student engagement as much as possible across the board, again, in a kind of well-researched, data-driven manner, is incredibly valuable, because adults will listen to youth, because it's youth's future that's at stake in all of this. So I think that's something where I would encourage as much action as possible from all. We have 2,000 students in the high school. That's enough to almost turn an election if they're all voters, but you can really get out there and help.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to say thank you to everybody that was on the panel. I'm so pleased with how this went, and I really hope the community listens to the really important messages that you spread today. And, you know, again, if you have not watched the film, please watch it and try to take part in some of our call to action.
Yeah, and thank you behind the scenes to all of our help from Tiffany, Rochelle, Mateo. We could not have done this without you guys.
Yes,
so thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for mentioning that, Emily. Yes.
And I want to thank you all for including us, including me and others on the panel of the conversation today. And it's always a delight to be with our students and to hear student voice. It's one of my favorite parts of the job. Not surprisingly, being independent, is to hear student voice, and your voice matters, and it's heard. And I'm really glad to be part of this with you today. And Paige, I'm sorry for a difficult senior year. This is a tough one. I mean.
Yeah, it's been tough, but it's making us a better class.
There you go.
We're gonna be fun adults.
Be very resilient.
We're not having so much fun right now, so we'll make up for it when we're older.
Great.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Terrific.
All right. Well, feel free to reach out. Anybody who's watching in the community, feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions, comments, concerns. We'd be happy to address them.
Yes, and share your pictures and your videos, please.
Yeah,
we'd love to see them. Thank you.